Hey there, it's Felix here from HeyDon'tShoot.com once again, and today we're going to do a little bit of a review and a comparison between two cameras that are neither a Sony nor a Nikon, which is rare for us. We're talking about Fujifilm cameras. On my left is the Fujifilm X100T, and on my right is the Fujifilm X20. Now these are different cameras and they target different markets, but we've got them both and we're going to try them out here on Soyosan Mountain. We just uploaded episode 10 to HeyDon'tShoot.com, which was our last full-length episode, but today's vlog is absolutely the last video that we'll be shooting here in Korea. Turner's going back to the United States, to North Carolina, to open a photo gallery. I've got a few months left here in Korea, and then I'll be heading back to the United States, and we're going to meet up for a photography trip around the United States. That's cool. But today we're talking about Fujifilm cameras. We're going to do some photography up here on Soyosan Mountain, so stick around and check it out. Alright, we're here at the site of an ancient Buddhist temple. This temple on Mount Soyosan was originally built back in 652 AD. It's had to have been rebuilt a couple of times, most recently because it was destroyed during the Korean War. But as you can see, they've maintained the integrity of the old style Buddhist temple, and we're going to shoot some video here as well, so you get to see how these cameras do with video. But first, let's talk about the Fujifilm X20. Now, the Fujifilm X20 is not the latest version of this camera that Fuji has in this price point. They have since come out with the Fujifilm X30, but there are very few differences. One of the main differences is that the Fuji X30 has an electronic viewfinder, whereas this X20 just has an optical viewfinder. It takes a little bit of getting used to switching between the optical viewfinder and then looking at your picture on the LCD screen, because you're not seeing the same thing. Especially since I've been using electronic viewfinders for so long, I'm so used to putting my eyeball in here and seeing what I see on the LCD screen. Takes a little getting used to. But basically the X20 is a 12 megapixel camera. The way you turn it on is just by turning this lens. This lens is a 28 to 112 millimeter fixed lens. So it's not a fixed focal length, but it's a fixed lens in that it's not interchangeable. But from 28 to 112 it gives you pretty good range. It's got a lot of advanced functions. You can go full manual, aperture priority mode, shutter priority mode. And I've added a couple of accessories that make it a little more comfortable to shoot because it is a compact camera. Okay, so I've added an aftermarket thumb rest and an aftermarket soft shutter release. This really makes it a lot more comfortable when you're gripping the camera because, as you see, there's not much of a grip here on the front of the camera. So when you grab it with your hand, your thumb kind of naturally goes there. And since I've been shooting with a lot of film as well, that's kind of where your thumb goes because you want to crank that film. But it's quite comfortable. Here you can see the back of the camera. It's got a nice LCD screen. I've added a hard glass case to it because you don't want to mess up that LCD screen. All the menu is quite easy to find, all the menu items. And one of the things I like best about this Fuji, and it's on the X100T as well, is you've got the Q button, which stands for quick menu, and it'll bring up all your different settings that you can adjust. And I like that with the touch of one button, and then you just scroll left or right, and then you use your dial to adjust the setting. Now, one of the great features, and the main reason I bought this camera, is because it's got the Fujifilm film simulation mode. And you just hit the Q button, you go to the film simulation, and you adjust the dial, and it's got all your different film simulation modes here. The only difference between the X30 and the X20 and the X100T is that the 100T and the X30 have that classic chrome film simulation mode that the X20 does not have. I was just about to sell this camera on eBay, but then I discovered a feature that I really like and stopped me from putting it up for sale. I mean, I don't need this camera. It's kind of a luxury because I've got the A6000, which is pretty much in the same, price range and in the same kind of category as this compact camera. But Fujifilm has done a great job with their macro mode. The X20, the X30, and the X100T have a super macro mode. It's easy to access. You just press the little flower icon there and it'll take you into macro mode. You go over to super macro and you can get to within 1 centimeter of your subject, and that's pretty close. So I'm going to take a picture of these flowers here and watch how close this camera can get and focus, and we're going to show you these pictures in the video as well. Really super close to your subject. I've got tiny little droplets of water that this camera will pick up. So you should probably talk about that camera then. That way because I don't know dick about it.
Yeah, I don't either, but
you should talk. That way we're both in the video.
So a couple months ago, me and Felix headed down to Seoul and I discovered the Fujifilm X100T. I've been seeing a lot of good things about it on the internet, so I decided to pick up the X100T. It's a real easy to use camera and I've really enjoyed using it. One of the big selling points was a fixed lens that's on the camera. Really think it's awesome that this lens can stop down to f2 all the way up to f16, which is a perfect range for this camera. It shoots all the way up to 4,000th of a second, which is awesome, and an ISO up to, I believe, 51,000. Of course, you're not going to set it to that, but usable ISO from 800 to 1600 with this camera. So let's talk about the back of the Fuji X100T. So like Felix's X20, you have the quick menu, which I rarely use. I never really bring this up. I'll show you what I usually do. But you can change the film simulation. Actually gives you information at the top of what you're highlighting, which is good for everything. You get your ISO, dynamic range, white balance, sharpness, color, all that when you're shooting JPEG, noise reduction, and image quality to change it from JPEG to RAW. That's another great thing about this camera. It shoots in RAW. That's good for me. So we'll go back out of the quick menu, and what I usually do is I hit drive, and right here is your still image. That's what you choose if you just want to take a single image. You have your continuous, your high, and your low, and AE brackets, ISO, film simulation brackets, white balance brackets, dynamic range bracket, multiple exposure, and motion panorama. Motion panorama stitches pretty well in the camera. I've shot a couple panoramas lately with it, and it stitches it pretty well in camera. You got to keep it really still. It's like shooting it with your iPhone or any other phone camera that you have. You know, you have to keep it real steady. So like Felix's Fuji X20, you can get relatively close for macro shots, and if you get too close, it gives you an exclamation point and an AF on the screen telling you it can't focus. This camera really, I think it's labeled as a boutique camera or whatever. You have multiple exposure, panoramic mode, like all these nice settings for someone that, you know, is maybe just getting into photography or is not even really into photography. They just have a bunch of money laying around, they want a nice camera. So there's a lot of great functions on here, and another cool thing is, besides all this beginner stuff and auto mode, you can still jump into shooting manual and shooting raw really quickly. And it's really comfortable, easy to get used to. It has a good little internal meter. So it is right away after you start, you know, you're done shooting auto and you want to move to the next level, it's going to be really easy to do that. It's all right here for you. All right, so this camera, we're about to shoot some video with it at 1080p, 30 frames a second. But up here, it's really awkward, is the function button. And that's what you press record. And you go straight into record. It's like really, really simple. It's so hard to like keep it still. It looks good though.
On the X20, I think it's a little easier to get into video mode. It's got on the dial here a little video camera icon. You just switch to the video camera icon, and then to start recording, you press the shutter button, and it's recording now. So you got a little red dot that's blinking that indicates that it's recording. And this is probably a little more versatile camera than the X100T for video. That X100T is really for still photography. I say that because you do have a little bit of zoom on the lens here, so I can zoom into this. Now it's not a power zoom lens, so when you're zooming in and out, it's not going to be smooth. You'll see it's going to be a little choppy. But the video quality is pretty good. Now let's test out both these cameras, their video and photos, in a low light situation. We've got the temple inside there with some candlelight. We'll see how they work in low light. At some point you start to cast your own shadow on it. You get so close. But that's pretty close, man. I really like the soft shutter on here. It's really quiet, which would be great for street photography. And this 23mm lens, which is the equivalent of, say, a 35mm lens, because it's an APS-C sensor, it's fantastic focal length for street photography. Now listen to the shutter. I'm going to take a picture of you and just listen. Tick. It's as quiet as a Mamiya 7 shutter. Oh, look at this. Let's get this nice little pattern here. Yeah.
See, Nikon and Sony go hand in hand, bruh.
Yeah.
My camera has a Sony sensor in it.
I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, and this LCD screen, they're different LCD screens. Obviously, you're paying more money. You're getting a more accurate LCD screen on the X100. The menu, and I turned down the brightness, but it's still really super bright, and the pictures look different on my computer screen than they do on this LCD screen. So with the optical viewfinder and the LCD screen being a little bit off, I don't know how to describe it, it's just not that accurate. You don't really know how your pictures look until you get back home and see them on the computer screen, whereas with the X100T, you get a more accurate rendition of what the picture actually looks like, because this is a high quality LCD screen.
See what focus now.
Yeah, I think the autofocus is pretty good on it.
And who the fuck did it focus on? I would not recommend this camera. It does not do good selfies. There we go. Nice. Hard to hold this. So small and just very comfortable for me. I've got big hands though. This kind of helps though. What you gave me. Right here, I feel like I'm not gonna drop it all the time. Definitely recommend using a strap. Most definitely.
Check out these rabbits. Oh my god.
When I go to change my shutter speed, I'm accidentally turning off. Look, see how my finger comes up here like this? While I'm shooting, I like to change it, you know? And while I do that, I'm shutting off the damn camera. So that's pretty annoying. And I've seen that in other videos, people talking about that. And it hasn't really happened to me until right now. And I'm starting to notice it when I'm doing like that. Now, if you're shooting on auto, of course, you're not even gonna touch this. So it's not gonna be your problem, so. But, yeah, we live in Tongdushan.
I soldier?
Yes.
Good.
He's soldier for 5 more days. 5 more days soldier and then finish.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Only 5 days.
Service,
yeah.
Service is over.
How long did you stay in Korea?
2 years, 8 months.
Oh, Ooh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Thank you very much for our country. You they saved our peace in Korea.